Morning, guys. How are you? I can't hear you.
Good,
Can you
good.
speak? Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry
Awesome.
about that. I was stuck on traffic. The traffic was really bad from Umhlanga to here.
No problem, bro. I understand. Yeah, we can get started, I guess.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
yeah. So, welcome everybody to Inspire SA, and I hope everyone had a wonderful and enjoyed their weekend. Today it's Interview Mondays, since it's Mondays for Interview Mondays. Today we have a special guest, Chris, a student ambassador, a software development engineer, and we can go on with his resume. Alongside Chris, we also have two co-hosts, Yolanda and Tinashe. I hope I pronounced his name right. I'll all welcome them onto the show. Welcome, guys. welcome.
Welcome.
So yeah, looks like the others are still having that technical difficulties that side. Firstly, we would like to apologize for the late delay. As Chris just apologized now. It was an unforeseen setback. Welcome to Nashe and Yolanda. Can you guys hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So I'm sure Yolanda will come in and join us. So without any further ado, I'm sure we can get started. We just ask our questions here and there, and Chris, our guest, will get to answer it. You must be feel free to ask whatever you want. And today we'll be talking about the transition from being a student to the workplace. In other words, from student expectations to the industry expectations. So without any further ado, Chris, can you please tell us more about yourself or a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Good evening, everybody. I'm actually extremely sorry for the delay. It was actually an unforeseen circumstances that I got stuck in traffic on my way back home. It was like really bad. But to get into it, my name is Chris Minoko. I was actually a student from the Durban University of Technology, where I did my undergrad and my postgrad, if BTech is considered postgrad. And I completed my degree, my postgrad last year. Last year 2020. At the very same time, I was doing my intern at Bet Software, previously known as Betting Entertainment Technologies, but they rebranded to Bet Software.
Wow. Okay, that's really sounds interesting. Thanks for that because a lot of us we really find opportunities like internships hard to come about. So you already had a head start, I have to say. So to get started, Tinashe and Yolanda, do you mind if I go first with the questions? Okay. So oh, you like to say anything else?
No.
Okay. So I'll go on with the questions. So the first thing I would like to ask personally is about your student life. You know, what were you as a student, or how would you describe yourself as a student before going to the workplace or industry? What were you thinking? What were you expecting? The challenges that you faced here and there. Can you please tell us more about that? You as a student
Oh,
before you started
okay.
working.
Me as a student was, how do I say this? I was more interested on the technical subject than I was in the theoretical stuff. So I had more passion for coding than I had for the likes of maybe your information systems management. Henceforth, I would find spending much of my time doing some coding practice, doing some stuff with friends, but I surrounded myself mostly with people who were actually better than me in coding, people who actually I could tell they were like way advanced than me. So that kind of gave me a boost. But other than that, I had like a normal life, like any every other students, bunking lectures, not attending classes. But I would do it for good reasons. Maybe if the lecture was too boring, I'd rather go sit down and watch some YouTube videos. Yeah, that was it. And yeah, it was basically normal.
Wow. So, as you were a student, you told us that you preferred the more technical subjects. Did you have like a direction in what you wanted to do, or you were just like taking it wherever the wind took you, or what was like your kind of attitude when you were in as a
No,
student? Can you?
I had I had a
Yeah,
direction
come
as to
on.
where I wanted to go in the technical. I had a direction because whilst when you are into a practical field, you will understand your strong points and your weak points. So in a coding perspective, I really understood from like second year onward. I think, well, let's just say second year onward, that my strong point lied more in front end than it was in back end. So I aligned myself with people who were doing better things in front end, and also people who were actually extremely good in backend to back me up when I couldn't actually complete certain tasks. But when it came to front end, I already knew off part that my career would go more on the UI, more on the front end perspective from second year. So all the projects were coming in from university. I was mainly handling the front end part. I would jump in back end if maybe there's an overload, but I know already my back end wouldn't be as perfect, but it would work. Not just as good as someone else who would maybe write it more efficiently using more proper data structures than I would have used. So I aligned myself more in front and from second year on because I knew that's where my strong point lied at.
Wow, interesting. So that guess knowing where you wanted to go really helped you to become where you are right now. So the next question is, did you imagine yourself where you are today as a student? Because right now, as a student, we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know if we'll get a job. You know, the unemployment rate is here and there. And plus, you got a job at a really high tech company or a really good company, I have to say. So, what was your expectations beyond that with regards to that?
Hey, honestly, I would lie to tell you if I knew already I'll get a job once or twice. It was firstly just maybe perhaps more on the religious side was God's grace because there's a lot of people who were actually maybe far and above and beyond my capabilities, but they couldn't really push it through. But along those lines, I didn't see myself to work one of these big tech companies. I was just doing what I liked, just pushing what I
Mm.
loved, and whatever came my way I wasn't really picky. I would go for it. But most importantly, I wasn't looking at the end goal. I was mainly looking at, just doing what you love the most every single day. And that's how perhaps I was spotted, which is a story I'll tell at a different stage.
Oh, wow, that's really nice to hear. Tinashe, do you have any questions as we go on? Because I can go on asking questions, but with regards of you, do you have any questions to ask Chris as we starting?
Yeah, no, you spoke about how you realized your strength lay more in the front end and the UI design from second year onwards. But what got you originally into doing education you're doing? So was it the fact, did you just want to get into IT? If so, then how did you go about selecting your specialization before you knew about the UI and the front end and the back end and your strengths? Initially,
Yeah,
like what got you to this, to the point of studying what you were
I,
doing?
I think the passion started back at high school. The passion started back at high school when I was still in grade 9. I was blessed to be among some really good teachers who kind of saw the light, who gave me an opportunity. Because from high school, I wasn't really the sporty kind. I wasn't really the sporty type. I was a bit geeky, playing these computer games here and there. Not that much, but I had the passion already for computers from an IT from an early age. So when I went to high school, I encountered a teacher by the name of Mr. Ibrahims, and we would mainly talk about this tech stuff. And when they introduced IT into high school, and he suggested, you know what, you can actually try this thing out. And unfortunately, I wasn't really good enough in math in grade 9, so I couldn't get accepted to do IT or physics. So I had to go and beg people, what, beg this high, my teachers, until they gave me a chance to do IT instead of physics because I wanted to do physics and IT, but they're like, no, 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 we can't give you physics, you're gonna fail. We don't want you to fail grade 12 and all that. So they just gave me IT. Then from there onward, the IT teacher who was teaching us IT was really amazing. he sparked the passion, and we took it from there onward. Because from grade 10 already, we started doing things like Java, we started doing things like HTML and Bootstrap from grade 10 level. So that kind of gave me a head start.
Wow. Tinashe, is that all, or must I
Yeah.
continue?
It was quite fascinating. Have you kept in touch with any of the teachers who inspired you to start your journey?
Uh, Not really. I met him only once. You see, I only met him once. It was a dev. It was a, it's a dev con. So we have these dev conferences in IT where you go visit conferences. We had new tech, and we met up, and he was also just visiting. So we spoke quite well, and was really pleased to see how I'm doing in the space and things like that. So for him as a teacher, he felt proud because he's seeing the products of his teaching in action, and that for him is a blessing on his side.
Awesome, awesome. So to continue, we have a question from the chat. We'll take a look at it. So to the viewers watching, if you have any questions for Chris, just let it know in the chat and we'll ask it on your behalf. So we got a question from Oretale Silakia. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. She's asking what do what front end do you do? What front end do you do?
Okay. Okay, so at work, it just depends on the project requirement that comes in. You see, there are certain projects that are best suits for certain technology, certain elements. So I'll give an example. When you're driving a car or when you're racing, you don't just use any type of car for racing. If you're racing one of these best brand, you have to use a car that is suitable for that particular race. I can't take a Toyota Taz for a Formula One race. You see, it's not going to work out. So depending on it's subjective to project. So but on my day-to-day basis, I mainly work with Angular. I work with Angular 10 plus, maybe Angular 11 and Angular 10, and also a pretty very old first version of Angular, the first flavor, Angular JS. I work with that a lot. And also in between you get your React JS and things like that. So now those Angular is a front-end framework, a JavaScript framework that allows you to build client-side application that communicates with your API, which is application programming interface. So it's what the clients mainly interact with. So you can build whatever communicates with your APIs with Angular or perhaps React, but it just depends on the project criteria. But on my day-to-day basis, my two most used are Angular 10 and Angular JS. Also with your Bootstrap, CSS, what comes along the way.
So basically, web development.
Yeah,
Web development.
yeah.
So that's a good intro to what we want to talk about next. So it says that you are a software development engineer. You've mentioned what exactly you do, but in definition, engineer is like people who make stuff. So can you like define us your role or your job title for those who don't know? Because we know there's software engineer, there's computer engineer, there's all these different types of jobs. So specifically your one, can you please tell us more about that? Because I'm also want to know about it. Can you define it for us?
Okay. So from my job title is SDE one, so Software Development Engineer one, and then you have web developer, you have just a developer, and you have a computer engineer. Now with a computer engineer, you mainly interact with hardware as well and software. But when you interact with things, you write low code. Yeah, you mainly work with low programming code. So code basically that interact from a hardware level. You find most computer engineers interact with C++ a lot because they know because C++ is best suited for hardware, to interact with with devices from a very CPU level. You see that there is not as much as intensive as the likes of your C sharp. Now on my role is a full stack dev. So we start from the analysis parts to your database to your your actual implementation. So when you're doing all of this stuff, of course, obviously you have to look at how the flow of your application works from your system analysis point of view, from a development point of view, and from a UI point of view. So you're basically full stack. And when you're writing your code, obviously you have to put into use good coding principles like your solid, and make use of a proper data structures and things like that. That's the fundamental difference between a computer engineer and a software engineer, because with a software engineer you're basically dealing with full stack. Computer engineer, you're dealing with both hardware and software. I don't really worry much about hardware because the code that I write mainly runs on the web, you understand? So, or a desktop. So I don't really need to worry much about devices, you see. Yeah.
Wow, that's enlightening, I have to say. So the next part that I want to ask is the transition. Best, you've mentioned Angular, you've mentioned all these new technologies. We went to the same university, and that's not what we get taught. We were not taught that on campus. So now, basically, as you went to the workplace, you had to start off from scratch. Or how was it like? Based on what you've been taught in high school, or that's I mean in university, and it says on your diploma you qualified for this, but then going to the workplace, what was actually the change in the adjustment that you had to make or do or go through?
Yeah, there was a bit of change. There was a lot of change, but yet again, being in this industry, you have to accept change wherever you go. Because if you don't accept change, first of all, you're gonna hinder yourself from growing further. Because number one, every company that you're gonna go to, they have their own tech stack. They have particular technology that they've used to build their in-house product or whatever they maintain. But then when you're at university, it will be impossible for university to teach you all of the tech stacks that the companies uses, because as I said earlier on, it varies from company to company. So how university basically work is to give you an understanding of, first of all, programming principles, how to code and how to do that. But most importantly, to teach you how to work yourself, to how to work on yourself, how to do research on your own. Because if you've done DS3, you'll know that one of the core part of DS3 is the ability to do self research, to go out on the web and to do your own stuff. Because you're gonna go for presentation, and then you get lecturers asking for things that they have never taught you in class. The core reason behind that was for you to go out there and find out how these things work on your own. Because when they're gonna ask you, you don't know what they're gonna ask you. So the transition was a bit difficult, but yet again, being in an industry like IT, you have to accept the fact that change is normal. Change is normal. So I really, really, really had to push myself, because back in university we don't really write much scripting stuff. It's mainly just MVC, straightforward. But now when you go in the workspace, JavaScript is a big thing. Client-side application is a big thing. So you need to understand, I can't just write code to make it work, but I have to write code that is scalable. Because the system that we maintain and we build features for, it has an average of 5,000 transactions per second.
Yeah.
So, which means that every second there's about 5,000 requests coming into the system. So now take 5,000 over a minute, over an hour. So you can't just write code because it works. So you have to adjust into writing things that are scalable, into writing things that has the ability to accept this influx of data requests coming through. So yeah, the transition was a bit difficult, but it's doable.
Wow, yeah, that's really a wonderful story to say. It's a bit scary as you talking about it, because like as a student perspective, it's like, wow, that's so much work and stuff. But I have my questions. Tinashe, I'm gonna pass it over to you. Anything you'd like to ask Chris? Tinashe, you there?
Well, I actually have yes, I have two questions. So you spoke about the transition from. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we
Yes, we
can hear you,
can.
Tinashe.
Oh, okay. So you spoke about the transition essentially. Yeah. So you spoke about the transition from university going into the like outside of the classroom. So how is like the workplace, would you say it has affected your classroom activities, for example?
Can you please repeat that?
You're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. I was saying you spoke about the transition from Oh, sorry. Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you seem to be breaking up. You seem to be breaking up. Um, you may, if possible, you may try typing your question.
Better.
I'll try and ask it. Yeah, now you can try again. It's much better.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, it
Can
seems
hear you.
frozen.
Yo,
Mm,
okay. I think because of time, I will wait for Tinashe to sort out this technical difficulty. But for me, as I'm continuing, is so my next question that I want to ask is so you told us about the different levels in your workplace, right? From what I know, there's a senior dev, there's a junior dev, and all that. So is this a sort of thing in your company where you're working at? And if so, is there any helping hand or anybody that helped you in the transitioning phase, or you are alone in the deep end trying to survive? Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so there is, like, in the space number one, maybe we'll get into this as well. First of all, there is always a helping hand in IT or in programming, especially because nothing is built on a single end. It is always this emphasis on teamwork, because every project we get, although we're gonna have different parts to play in the project, but it is a team incentive type of job whereby everything is team based. So there's always a helping hand. There is always someone to assist you, always someone to assist you if you need help. So for my transition from university to high school, first of all, as I said earlier on, I started through a graduate program. So a graduate program, industries, they do know that coming from university, uh, they needed to get adjusted to their tech stack. They needed to get adjusted to the things that they use. You don't go directly and start writing live code, because you might break things up, and it might cost companies millions. So depending on how big a company is, or if it's a startup, but if it's a well-established companies like the likes of your F&B, the like of where I work, and other big brands, they always have graduate trainees whereby they take you from university and you undergo a training to see how well you're gonna survive in their space under different type of pressure. So my training was for about 9 months. And in that training was where now we had to go through like intensive training every single day. You're coming at work, you have tasks, you have to report to your seniors. And when you're doing your code reviews, like they give you, for example, okay, you're gonna do this project, this project. So all of us are doing it individually at their particular stage. And you have to showcase your code on a very big board. Now you're showcasing every line of code you wrote is, although you're gonna post stuff from Stack Overflow and you copy paste there sometime here and there, but you have to explain every single thing that you're doing. And by doing code reviews is now where your seniors are assisting you to say, okay, you know what, over here you don't use a nested for each loop. Nested for each loop, an example, are very bad because they consume a lot of memory, they consume a lot of space. So instead of using do this, do that, so there's always that helping hand. So I underwent that for 6 months, and there was about none of us, but three people got out because they couldn't make it through. You
Mm.
see, some people wanted to leave along the way because there was just so much of pressure. But there was that type of training, intensive training, to see, okay, you, whatever you write, make sure that you can back it up when things break. You see, and they're training to assist you. This is how you can do it better. This is how you can write better. Things like that. So there's always a helping
Wow.
hand.
Okay. Um, can you please also elaborate on like I hope it's non-disclosure, like the like the hierarchy in the company that you're working in,
Yeah.
just for people to know as well.
Okay. So there is, the hierarchy is starting from Okay, we have first of all, these are the structures, right? We have software developers or software engineers. We have QA, quality assurance guys, and we have DevOps, which is your guy that does all the deploy. We have the infrastructure teams, and you have your DBAs. Now, all of these guys here, they have a role to play in a project, starting from the devs. So from us, we have starting from SDE1, SDE2, SDE3, and then SDM. So SDE1 is your junior software engineer. Those are like your entry people like myself, whereby we're just starting into the field, 2 years experience. And then SDE2, which is software development engineer two that have about 3 to 5 years experience into coding. Those are, in other words, intermediate developers. And then you have 5 years or more. That's your SDE3. So those are more of your seniors. Now there's also senior level one, senior level two, and senior level three. Now when you senior level three, maybe perhaps you can qualify to be an SDM. An SDM now is a software development manager. That's like on top of the hierarchy. You don't write they don't write code anymore, but they oversee projects. So they become like your architects. Whenever you're writing code, they will decide for you guys, okay, this is the best approach. This is going microservices the right way or going service layers the right way. So those are the guys from the very, very, very top. And then on top of them, you have the head of software, which is made there's mainly one head of software. So the SDM will give the architect of the project to write, and then the head of software will approve, and then the software developers will build, the QA guys will test, the DevOps guys will deploy, and your infrastructure team will handle the environment and things like that.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of procedures to go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so before I move on, what about the pay? Because a lot of students, a lot of people look at the pay as well. They say that it's not like when you're doing an entry, there's not a lot of pay. And how does that pay affect in what you want to do, or in what, or did it have an effect in what you wanted to do as well, or you just took it as it is? Can you elaborate on more on that as well, on the
Okay.
factor
So
of pay or the
on the
money?
factor of pay, it's subjective firstly to area. It's subjective to area. So when you're working in Durban, Durban has the lowest paid devs in SA. So in Durban, the entry level guys don't get paid much. You see, don't get paid much. And you look at the likes of your Cape Town, and you look at the like of your Joburg, and Pretoria is currently on the rise. So as an entry level developer, money shouldn't be the first thing on your mind, but of course, obviously, you need to survive. You see, you need here and there. But if you're gonna go to a company solely for the sake of money, just keep this in mind: the higher you earn, the more demanding it is for you to deliver. Because if, for example, you're earning about 20K a month, your salary is equated to the amount of value you're gonna bring to the company. And often when you start earning 23, 24, because they know if you're earning that amount of money in Durban, they know already you have to bring a certain value. And most often than not, junior level developers are not regarded as people to bring about values, but they're regarded as uh, support guys. An example: support guys, people who are there to how should I say, to start the project, to get the project going up and running. However, to for the project to be well into verse, you have your intermediate guys who are there in case the junior level guys are messing things up. So in Durban, you're looking at an average plus minus average 15k, or maybe if you're unlucky 10. That's in Durban. However, money shouldn't be the first thing on your mind starting up. You should always take in any offer as it is for you to get that experience. Because when you have that experience, only then you can start dictating what you want to get paid. At this stage, you can't dictate what you want to get paid. You can only accept an offer to grow yourself as an engineer.
Wow, really inspiring. I'm gonna continue, but I'll pass it over to Tinashe. But before I do that, we got another question in the chat, and same from the same person. She's asking, What role does the team you work in compromise of? I think you've answered this one. What role
Yeah,
does
there's
your team work in comprise of?
okay. So in my team, what we mainly handle from a day to day is branch management because I work as I said earlier on. I'm part of Bet, and Bet is a division of Hollywood. Is a division of Hollywood Bets. It's a whole software division of Hollywood Bets. So my team, we were because of the whole renew structuring, we were in charge of managing of branches. So you see all different Hollywood Bets branches that you see out there. So we have a system that we wrote in house that maintains this day-to-day operations of the branches, in terms of their takings and how much money they're making and all those things like that. Operate from an operational point of view. That's what we mainly manage. And then you have the online guys that manage more of your gambling side, which is on your betting division.
Wow. Okay. Sorry, Tinashe. There's another question that came through, but I will pass it over to you just now. The next question is from Heloni. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So she's saying, Chris, are you implying that for one to advance from one level to another at your company is based on a tenure and not their performance and technical skills? Good question, I have to say. What would you say to that? Chris, you
We
there?
we have we have a criteria. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes, we
me?
can hear you.
Okay, we have a
Yes.
criteria of progression, and criteria of progression is well defined in our company. So if you want to move from SDE1 to SDE2, or you to progress, right? I don't know if I understand the question correctly. To progress upwards. So for me, which is where I'm currently in SDE1, first of all, I need to be in a team for about 3 years. That's the minimum requirements. I need to be in a team about 3 years. And at work, we have performance reviews. Performance reviews happens every 3 months, I think. Every 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. So performance review is when now you go on an interview with your team lead, the guy who you report to. Now, your team lead will have a set of questions that he and you have to answer based on how you've been performing for the last 3 months. So from your code quality, from the project that you have achieved, from your innovation abilities, from the ideas that you have introduced to the team. So when we first started, maybe an example, this thing was missing. And if I saw, okay, in my team, this particular element is missing, if I introduce that to the team, that is me being innovative, bringing something new. So all that is taken into consideration. And of course, your dedication. And if they see consecutively over 3 years, your code quality is of a level 2. Most important, your code quality, your innovation, your level of your number of years in the team, you can easily progress. So your team leader will write a motivation for you to move to an SDE2. And most often than not, if you're unlucky, you're gonna write a test. You're gonna write a test set for the standard of an SDE2. So when you write the test and you do pass, then you can progress and you start ending higher and you start assuming new bigger roles.
Wow. Who knew it was so like so complicated? Like I wouldn't say complicated, but there's so many things you have to go through just to move from one step to another. Who knew? I'm gonna go to the next questions, but I'll pass the floor on to Tinashe to ask his questions as well. I have to say there's a lot of insights from this, from the industry. Tinashe, over to you. Tinashe?
Am I audible this time?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, you are. You are audible.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We
Okay.
can. May go
Now,
ahead.
my question was, you spoke about to the workplace, and my question is like, how has that affected the activities you do outside of your working time? So, for example, you
Yeah.
spoke about
Tinashe,
what you use in university.
um,
How in the working place?
Yeah, I think
Chris, did you hear that?
I got the likes of his question. If it's balancing between work life and
Mm-hmm.
personal life and university life, if I'm not mistaken, there's always has to be a balance. There always has to be a balance because the job that we do is it's a demanding job because there are times whereby you stay until 3 a.m. in the morning trying to figure a bug out. And if, for example, you're in a relationship and you're trying to figure a bug out, your spouse or your person texts you and you're not in a mood to reply, it will affect your balance. It will affect your what your everyday life. So what I would mainly advise is that you always know when is work time and when is your time. If you mix in between the two, you're not going to be able to excel in either one. So if you're mixing between your work life and your personal life, you want to excel in work life and you want to excel in your personal life. Because what I find is that there are guys at work who are extremely brilliant at what they do, but when you look at them socially, they are lacking because they spend so much of time just focusing on their ability to learn how to code than their ability to integrate with other people. Because the space that we are in is a space that needs you to communicate, needs you to talk, needs you to socialize. Because when you need help, you must have the ability to ask. So you always have to balance off. Like this time of mine, I'm from work. Like I've set discipline when I come from work. If I'm at home, like right now, I don't like maybe after work, maybe 6, I don't open my laptop to do anything work
Wi-Fi.
related unless it's an emergency, but only on weekends perhaps. But every day, I don't do anything work related. My laptop is always off. If it's on, I'm doing some other things. But I always have to balance off, have time for myself and have time for work, else you're gonna miss the plot.
Well, that's insightful advice, I have to say. Tinashe, may go on for your next question.
Oh no,
Is Tinashe
it
there?
seems like you've learnt about the balance in obviously. Yes, I'm here. I think it's
Okay.
delayed. Um, you've learned to strike a balance between like if you could start knowing what you know now. Is there anything you do differently transitioning
Did you get his
into
question?
Yeah.
yes? Is there that better or I would have made
Okay. So I think before I actually answer that, there was a question that says Chris Mawari is with having time in position as a prerequisite for one to get a promotion. So, okay, to answer that one firstly is before I get to your question, Tinashe, is that it's subjective to company. My company, where I work at, you need to have that experience. The time is because they want you to understand their domain, the product, the things that we support. That's why they want you to have at least 3 years for it to move up. Because there are certain things that you have to do that only requires you to have domain knowledge, which is the business knowledge. Now, with regards to Tinashe's question, if what I would have done differently during my transition is that always do research from a university level as to where you want to go through. I would have had more, I wouldn't have wasted my time learning only Microsoft stacks as I was taught in university. I would have exposed myself to stacks from other companies, you see, so that I become more versatile. Because there are companies that you work for that don't use C sharp, they don't use .NET MVC. They use some other architects. So exposing yourself to different other flavors would have made you more marketable in the workspace. Like I would have learned if I had to be back at varsity, I would have learned the likes of your React, the likes of your MongoDB, the likes of your Redis DB, and those are the things that are not taught at a university. So imagine if you're coming out of university and you tell someone that I can work with document DB instead of SQL. I can work with, so you put yourself already as an advantage because you are working with stacks that are firstly new and that are not easily taught. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, Thank you for that. Another question from the chat. So Hinata Mikasa asks, how do you deal with the imposter syndrome in the workplace as a fresh dev? Good question. I was getting to that myself.
Imposter syndrome is real. It's not something that nobody can somebody can tell it that no, it doesn't exist. No, it's true. Imposter syndrome does exist, and every single day you have at least 10% of your day wondering, what the hell am I doing here? What am I doing? Am I really good enough? And it's something that affects not only just juniors, but it affects every single one in the space. Even sometimes the seniors have this imposter syndrome. But I'm gonna talk from a point of a junior because I go through this a lot. Because there's some moments you come to work and you're given a task and you do not know how to solve. And you can't be that type of person that always asks your team members for help. You have to do some things on your own as well to keep the team moving. So you always have this psychological imbalance saying that ish man, I'm not good enough, ish man, I don't deserve to be here. But when you put this in your mind saying that wherever you are at the position as a dev, you've earned that. It puts you in a better space to say that no, I've worked for this space. I'm not some sort of an imposter, you see. So how I work it out is that I always tell myself, you know what, even if this thing is hard, I can still do it. I have that mindset to tell myself, I know this thing is really difficult, but I will push. If I can't, I will still nag people for help. You understand? Because it's best to ask for help than to sit yourself, to put yourself constrained on a mental point of view. Because number one, you're holding the team back. You're holding the team back. Number two, you're holding yourself back as well from progressing. So just know that it's not something that is new. It's something that happens to the best of all of us. So you always have to tell yourself that I can still do it and I will do it. And I'm not the only one going through this. And most importantly, speak out if you need help. Speak out, speak out, speak out. That's what I would say.
Wow, really interesting. Okay, thank you for that. So we are about to reach time. It's almost 1 hour has gone past. I have like two more questions that I want to ask. I do not know how much questions Tinashe wants to ask, but for the viewers, please, if you have any questions, maybe two more. We'll take two more or three more questions to end off for today's episode. So before I move on, we got another question from Sholane. She says, you find guys with 6 to 12 months technically experience writing way better code than persons with 5 years experience in development. In that sense, I personally feel that the current process is flawed. So that's like a statement. What do you say to that? Being in the
No,
industry, I know you're new
I,
to the industry, but
I I agree. I agree. The system is flawed. It has always been flawed. It wasn't designed to be in the benefits of juniors. The system is flawed. I agree because from a personal experience, I've noticed that you can write way much better code than your juniors or than your intermediate people or than your seniors. But you just have to follow the process because as it is, those are the structures that are currently in place. Those are the pillars that you have to break for it to go on the top. You can't equate skill with time. That's number one. Having the to be skillful is not a matter of you being longer in the industry. You could have 10 years in the industry, but you still write crappy code, and you could have even 3 months into the industry, but you write way much better code than someone who's been in 5 years. But to put this to yourself, who is writing better code than someone who's been there 3 years, keep on writing better code. Keep on doing that because now imagine if you have to be there 3 years now, you'll be 10 times better than someone who's there already 3 years and still writing crappy code. So you just put in yourself that even though I know that currently I'm not getting paid because I don't have enough experience, but my skill set speaks louder than my number of years of experience, it shouldn't discourage you from writing better code. You keep on writing. There will be moments whereby your value will skyrocket, as in you might get into a company and they see what you're doing is absolutely valuable to them, and you yourself will start detecting salaries. So don't use that as a point to discourage you, but use it as a point to encourage you to write better code, because the longer you spend writing better code, the more valuable you become to any given companies that come to approach you.
Wow, wow, really insightful. So I'm gonna ask my question then to Nasha. I'll hand it over to you. So to all the students out there right now, you have been a student yourself, and to all the students and watching right now, what would you say to them? What advice or what words of encouragement or wisdom? I know you've said a lot, but what particular would you say to them going um into the workplace or into the industry or about the transitioning? What can they expect? The difficulties, anything like new, or like what advice basically I'm trying to my point is, what would you say
Okay,
to the students out there?
I think to the student, the most important thing is personal branding. That's for me is the most important thing is personal branding. You can be one of the most brilliant developer, but if nobody knows you're a developer, you're gonna be in the dark. Personal branding in the sense that utilizing the space of your LinkedIn to push your works out there. You find people who post much on Instagram, post lives on Instagram, but you go on the LinkedIn space, we don't really know you because professionally you're not doing anything to prove to recruiters that you exist in the space. So being a student, you always have to promote yourself, treat yourself as a brand. So use the space of your LinkedIn so well in the fact that recruiters start approaching you from LinkedIn. So whatever small project that you're working with, be it even a Hello World application you wrote in Python, just post. Your recruiter might be in your connection. So utilize LinkedIn to the best of your abilities, and that's something that would
Mm.
really give the things of your imposter syndrome. You can always work around that, but getting into the industry is not much about the transition, but it's you moving from university into the space, and that part is only happening through personal branding in the likes of your LinkedIn, the likes of your GitHub, pushing yourself out there.
Oh, thank you for that. That's really um, inspirational, I have to say. Tinashe, I'm going to hand it over to you to wrap up for today's episode. Any questions to Chris?
Um, I just have one last question. Just so what do you do to in order to deal with maybe work related stress?
Yeah.
So outside of your working time, what do you do to relax or de-stress?
Yeah, you'll find in our space a lot of people are drunkard. A lot of people in our space are drunkard because that's the only way to release the alcohol. That is actually true. At work, you have actually free alcohol for people to actually release their stress. This is where I work. They actually give you free alcohol where you can drink as much as you want on particular days to help you calm down. But from my personal perspective, I often have people that I talk to, just to have fun. Maybe we go play soccer on a regular basis. All those things that help release certain strains and stresses inside of you. So I mainly go out, I play soccer with the guys that I relate with, and sometimes chill with the boys, go for movies if they have time. And for me, that's what helped release the stress because the stress is a lot. Imagine we had a bug recently and I was behind the bug, and the bug has been stopping a project from going live for 2 weeks, and this project is a money related project. Now imagine being the head of that bug. You're the one who wrote this code and we can't seem to figure it out what's going on. So it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of stress. So if you don't have ways of releasing it, you might break. So I say do some extra activities like soccer, running, or I don't know, drawing, whatever. But I prefer playing soccer with the guys, although I'm not as good as Messi, but I'm better than Ronaldo.
Wow, well said. Well said. So, to end off, one last comment. So you've spoken about and you told us about the hierarchy in your company. Where do you see yourself the next 5 years, the next 10 years? Same place, getting promotion, or do you see yourself going for another big tech company? What would you say to that?
Yeah, as it is, this you always want to grow into the space, and I
His
I
boss
want to
might be
transition.
watching.
No, but you have to tell them your growth plan. Like our company is so relaxed, you have to tell them where you want to be in your 5 years so they can help you achieve that. But for me, I want to go more onto uh, uh, onto management positions than technical positions in my near coming years, because I feel like the industry is a bit too fast paced for me, not for other people, but a bit too fast paced for me. So I want to join more on the likes of your project management, but not now. Only when I've gained maybe senior, maybe intermediate or senior level, then I can move on to project management, because I find that you have project managers who come to manage project, but they are not technical savvy. They don't understand what the devs are doing. So when it comes to times estimation and deliveries, they give ridiculous times, because first of all, they don't know what these guys are doing. But if you are technical enough to understand how these things work in the background and become a project manager, and you have great people skills, you always have success in that space. So I see myself more of in the management position, like project management, than on a technical position, like maybe software development manager or what. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you for that. So Tinashe, would you like to do the closing off to thank Chris for coming off today? I guess it's delayed again.
We've all learned what. Oh,
May continue. Sorry about that.
I would just like to say thank you on behalf of everyone. I myself am not in. Yeah, I don't have an IT background myself, but I've learned a lot. Because a lot of what you said is applicable to many other industries, especially just being in engineering in general. So, thank you. I found this session quite insightful and a lot. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Tinashe. Also like to thank the viewers for coming out today and for your awesome questions that you asked. It's really was very insightful, as Tinashe just said, and we hope that you are inspired today on Inspire SA. Chris, any last words you want to say before we go? Any
It's been
last
fun,
words?
guys.
Goodbyes.
Happy coding. Happy coding.
Awesome. And last comment from Laurie. She said, Chris, big up to you for staying true to yourself. All the best, mate. And shout out to all the viewers for their awesome comments that you've put out today. Thank you once more. So,
Okay.
with that being said, please join us tomorrow for AI Tuesday as we continue with our face recognition. I will be making a face recognition app from with using code, and you wouldn't want to miss out on that. So stay tuned, subscribe to Inspire SA, and please also don't forget to check out Chris's channel. Chris's channel, what's your name of your channel so our viewers can
I
go
think it's
subscribe
just
as well?
solid view, Chris Minoko.
Solid View Chris Minoko. So we'll be sure to put that in the description box so you can also hit the subscribe button on his channel. So thank you once more for coming, and we would like to wish everyone a good. I hope everyone enjoys the afternoon, and see you tomorrow for AI Tuesday. See you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You'd run your fingers through my hair. Now I see your face nearly everywhere. All night long, and I know it's wrong. But you're the one I want. You are the one I want. Trying back on stop. You are the one I love. Trying back on stop and no. Cause late at night you're on my mind. You catch me out, you read my eyes. Can't forget you, can't forget you. And late at night, think you remember too. Sometimes you're my habit and I love to drown. And my heart just beats your name out loud all night long. And I know it's wrong. You're the one I want. You are the one I want. Trying but I can't stop. You are the one I love. Trying but I can't stop. And no. Cause late at night you're on my mind. You catch me out, you read my eyes. Can't forget you, can't forget you. Late at night, do you remember too? Sometimes keep forgetting that I should remember. Catch me out, you read my eyes. Keep forgetting that I should. Late at night, you're on my mind. Keep forgetting that I should remember. Catch me out, you read my eyes. Keep forgetting that I should. Forget you, forget you, forget you, forget you, forget you, forget you. Get you, get you. Can't forget you, can't forget you. And late at night, do you remember too? Sometimes.